Hey guys, this is What If Deku Was the Punisher Part 1. Now, lately I haven't been posting that much because the last video I posted was 2 days ago, but normally I posted multiple times a day. Like, I haven't been posting much, and you guys probably have noticed that. And I took a little bit of a long break, so I'm gonna start jumping into YouTube a lot more. I said that in my last video, but I'm really gonna try to start. I am. Trying isn't really the best situation, because if you say you try, you most likely won't, and trying isn't really doing anything. So I'm gonna do better, and I'm gonna post a lot more. I'm gonna put a lot more soul into my videos lately. I'm also going to be saving up and setting up other things like that, like my Cash App and other apps like that, so I can save up to get a MacBook or some other equipment, and also a Delgado, so I can start gaming and reaction videos. So I'm going to start doing those and everything like that. So yeah. Also, guys, I am going to be rebooting some of my more famous what ifs that I feel like I can do better at now. So, like, what if Deku had the Omnitrix? I might reboot that. And also, I am going to be continuing what if Deku, what if Ben was in the Young Justice? I am going to be continuing the Young Justice what ifs very soon. So, I'm going to be doing a couple what ifs. I'm going to be doing what if the Ninja Turtles were in Young Justice Part 1 rebooted, since I did do a Part 1, but I did do a what if similar to that, but it didn't do well. So, I'm going to reboot it and try to do it better, because a new TMT show, I feel like I'm inspired to do a little bit more TMT, content. So I'm going to be doing a little bit more TMT content. So I'm going to be doing what if the Ninja Turtles are in Young Justice Part 1 and rebooted. And I'm also going to be doing what if Deku was Spider-Man rebooted, because I feel like I can do better at that story now with my, better chance of building up a universe, I guess. So yeah, I'm gonna be doing those 2 reboots, plus the what if Deku had the Omnitrix reboot. So I'm gonna be doing those three reboots plus this new series, and also I am going to be hitting you guys with the final finale of The Boys. What if Superman was in The Boys? Part, I think, 4 or 5. I'm gonna be doing a season finale for that. This spring break, so just stay tuned for that. And this spring break, I'm also going to hit you guys with a lot of vlogs on my TikTok page. If you don't know my TikTok page, I have a new one. The TikTok page that's on my YouTube is my old one. Haven't posted since, I don't know, 2020 or something. So, basically just hit me up. I will have my YouTube and stuff like that. I will have my Instagram and TikTok down below in the description below. And yeah. And also the end screen, my videos at the end, I'll probably put up a lot of my new playlists. I'm gonna be making more playlists for some of my what ifs that people don't really know, and that some people have texted me or commented on my videos saying that I don't really understand. I don't really want to go through the effort of searching up your story or scrolling through all your videos to find the next part. You should just link them all together. So I'm gonna start doing that. But yeah, so I hope you guys enjoy the video, and let's just dive right into this video. Enough talking about what I'm gonna do on my YouTube. So we start our story off with Deku's origin, or how he'll come to be in this new world, and how his life would have changed, turning him into this universe's version of the Punisher. As we start our story off with Deku's father. As Deku's father would be somewhat of an abusive man, but his mother being very caring. As Deku would have been abused as a child, being born, and his mother being put into hospital bed rest after his birth, since her birth put a very big toll on her body. As Deku would have grown from his mother being caring and nurturing, keeping that good part of him alive, that Deku we all know and love, but a part of him growing inside from his father being a very abusive man, and also being a hero as well. A hero that was only obsessed with money and never really stopping crime, and even let police just die on the sidelines, and we had the chance to stop it, and even somewhat just let criminals go. So his father was a horrible, superhero, or horrible hero, and also a crappy dad. As Deku's father was never really around, he also was caught multiple times cheating on his mother, but his mother knew that she couldn't support Deku and her on her own, since she was bed rested at the time and she didn't know what time when she was ever going to be able to walk again. And also at the same time, she didn't want to leave and take Deku away from his father, but she knew that his father wasn't really good at all, and Deku having him in his life would probably be even more of a biggest mistake she'll ever make. Now, Deku's mother would have stayed with him over the years. Deku being eventually about 13, and the story would have really changed more than it already has. As Deku's father one day would have came home from work after messing with a hero that we do know that works at UA, as she would have had a very long fling with, Asashi. Asashi even thinking about leaving Inko for her to remarry and stuff like that. So Asashi eventually walked into the room where Deku was sleeping and would have pulled up the cover saying, "Wake up, boy," as he saw Deku was on the ground in his room. As he would have walked over to Deku, kicking him and saying to get up, as Deku at that time was, well, having a stroke. As Deku would be on the ground, almost dead, as his father would have yelled at him saying to get up, as his father wouldn't really care about his well-being, just thinking he was messing with him. As he would have left the room and would have taken out his anger on his mother, beating her in her bed without her even noticing. Just him walking in and just being her first thing, he didn't even say anything. As Deku would have woken up hours later after some miraculous way he survived his seizure, as Deku would have gotten up, as he would have been kind of messed up, as he would have limped to his mom's room, seeing his mom on the ground, bloodied up and beaten up. As Deku's father would have looked at him and saying, "Come here, boy," as Deku would have said to back up now. As Deku would have ran off, going to the kitchen and grabbing a knife, as his father would have ran out for him, saying, "Are you going to really do something with that? Come on, try me." As he would have ran towards Deku, but Deku would have stabbed him dead in his jugular. Just stabbed him again and again and again for hours. Eventually, Inko watching Deku stab him about 150 times in the same place, the chest, the stomach, the face, everywhere. As Deku would eventually be covered in blood, the knife stained in his father's blood, soaked in it. As Inko would have looked at Deku, as we get whipped about 2 years later. Deku would be about 15 at this time. Now, Deku would have been in foster care. After Inko would have seen this, she would be kind of scared of her son, but her knowing that he was saving her. As they would have tried to live on their own, but knowing time wasn't going good, and also Asashi was actually going broke, she couldn't really afford to keep Deku in school, and also keep him going and enrolled. As eventually, and also Deku on top of all that, he was bullied as a kid since he didn't have a quirk when he was 5. That's part of the reason why Deku's father resented him so much, that his wife gave him a quirkless child. As Deku didn't have a quirk in his canon, still, but he did have a type of a birth defect that was proclaimed not a quirk, but still somewhat of a power. I'll get into that later on. Now, Deku would have been in foster care, going to school, eventually going to the same school where Bakugo was, meeting up with Bakugo, and not really knowing him, or not really seeing him since preschool. As he would have seen Bakugo in the hallway, noticing his red eyes and his blonde hairs, Bakugo would have also noticed Deku immediately. And in this canon, Deku would have black hair instead of green hair. Asashi actually having a flame quirk, but his fire was black. And his hair was black as well. Because in my version, I think of I imagine Asashi as just an older looking version of Deku with green hair and a beard, to be honest. But basically, we see that Deku straight up just doesn't really care anymore, as he's gone through so much. His mother did die a year before he was put into foster care, as Deku's been into foster care about a year now. As the year after his father died, Deku was put in the juvie for a couple months, and then he was pulled out, and then in the foster care again after his mother was found unlawful to keep him supported, and also give him a roof under his head. So his mother lost custody, and we don't even know where Inko is now. And Deku was put into foster care for the next 1.5 years. So yeah, Deku was in foster care, and he eventually went into adopted by a new family, as his new family would have been Mineta's family. As Mineta's family would have adopted him, and Mineta having a sister and another older brother with a similar power set to him, but his powers were more of a spike, since he had spikes on the top of his head and could pull him out like Porcupine, or like Spike from X-Men Evolution. So yeah, but only from his scalp, so he couldn't pull it out from any other part of his body. It's kind of like a hair quirks are like super, common in Mineta's family. So in this canon, so basically, we see that Deku is adopted by the family, and he's treated like their own. He goes to school with Mineta, and Mineta goes to the same school as Bakugo, surprisingly, as they walk into class, and they basically look around, as we see the class, pretty much introduces herself. We see Deku introduces himself, as Deku's personality has really changed over the years, and he isn't the same Deku. Deku's a lot more darker, a lot more nonchalant, and doesn't really put much emotion in his voice. And he has different ideals on heroing in general, since his father was a very, cruel hero. And Deku's ideologies on heroing is somewhat of the same, but it's going to be pushed even farther. It's somewhat the same as Frank Castle's, but it's even going to be pushed even farther and later on in the story. Now we see that Deku walks to a seat as he sits a couple rows behind Bakugo, as Bakugo taunts Deku the next couple days, or the next couple weeks of him living with the new family. As about a couple months go by, as Deku actually starts to feel emotion for his family, and even starts to call Mineta's father and mother dad and mom and dad, as they eventually accept Deku entirely as their own child, and even Mineta thinking of Deku as his own brother, and their sister, and Mineta's sister and older brother also thinking the same, as they all have a happy life. Deku would even start feeling really close to his family. Now, eventually, you see that Deku's stepfather, or adopted father, was in a lot of shady stuff, and I mean a lot of shady stuff, to a point where he was even drugged. He was coming over to the house in the middle of the night, and even his family being threatened a few times, as he was really in bad gambling, drug dealing, and also a bunch of other illegal stuff that could have landed him 50 to 30 to 70 years in jail, life sentences, to be honest. As Deku's new adopted father would have been kind of a scumbag entirely. Not as worse as his father, but would have put a lot of stuff in danger. As eventually Deku would have tried to put things in his own hands, about this time Deku being about 16 years old at the time. As Deku would have been now 16, living about another year with his family. As Deku would have walked off, as Deku would have looked over, and he would have looked, and he would have just, one day just it didn't fit right with him. As Deku over the years in foster care, he would have picked up boxing, also Krav Maga, a bunch of other hand techniques and fighting, also knife throwing, was it shuriken throwing, katana, and also swordsmanship, and also being a master marksman now, being basically a god when it comes to guns, or any type of gun, torpedo, machine gun, or anything of the sort that is a long projectile. Even bows and arrows could even become a deadlier weapon than a actual shotgun in Deku's hands. So Deku literally Deku's mind was built for killing, to be honest, because Deku literally could turn anything he touches or grabs as a weapon, or turn it into a weapon, kind of like, John Wick, as Deku was very more like, just not sadistic, but more or less a lot more short-tempered, and didn't really care about the lives of others that much, unless he actually loved them, but it didn't do anything bad. As Deku over the years found a disgust for crime, over time him seeing crime become even more rampant in the darker parts of Japan, where heroes that were just there for fame never did much of anything. He knew for a fact All Might was there not for fame, but to actually save people. But other heroes were just there for fame. They didn't really care about people that much, and overall just cared about the money and fame, being a hero. Nothing really about saving people or stopping criminals or anything like that. Now, Deku did know somebody because of his school actually genuinely didn't want just fame. They wanted to be heroes. They wanted to save people. But majority of all of them, every single one of them, wanted just fame and money. They didn't really even want to even save people, to be honest. As Deku would have been disgusted by the hero pretty much just hypocrisy, everything about it. The hero, just everything about it. The hero life, everything they give them, to get paid to do the right thing. It's just didn't really stick with Deku. Now Deku one day had to take things in his own hands. As Deku would have put on a black hoodie and pretty much some white compact boots, as he would have grabbed his dad. As he would have grabbed a shotgun, as Deku would have had a shotgun, a handgun, and a pocket knife, as he would have all got these things legally, having a illegal fake ID to get all these things, posing as a 19, 20-year-old. As he would have walked up to the drug dealer that was mainly had, his stepfather or his adopted father up to his neck in debts and a bunch of other stuff, as he would have gone there that night, taking them all on and sneaking past them, as eventually we came to a room where he couldn't really do any stealth, as he would have been able, actually surprisingly, taking down all the people on the outer banks or outer areas of the facility, being a pretty stealthy person. As eventually he would have walked into the main room where they had majority of the drugs and the big stuff, and also gun laundering and other things like that. As eventually he would have messed up, as one of them would have set off a silent alarm, as a couple guys would have pretty much dropped Deku, chucking him on the ground, as they would have recognized his face, pulling off the hoodie, and the guy recognizing, hey, this is that one dude's son. Send his son to do his dirty work? Kid, I want to show you something. You don't mess around. I'm not gonna let you go just because you're a kid. It's gonna look bad on my reputation. I gotta treat everybody equally, no matter what their age, sex, or race is. Get him up, guys. As he would have knocked out Deku, as Deku would have woken up in a chair, tied up, sitting, looking at his family and other chairs covered in gasoline, and guys and guns being around them. As Deku would have been looked dead in his eyes by the drug lord. As the drug lord looked at him, saying, "I told you, kid. This will look bad on my reputation. I will let you live, but I want you to live with this, knowing that you messed up, knowing that you let your family die, knowing that your ignorance killed them." As he would have pulled out a match and would have burned the family alive, and also would have shot them too after bodies were crispy to make sure. As Deku would have been, his eyes being opened wide with this whole thing, with somebody that had a quirk that could have the people he can control people's facial pretty much attributes, but not none of their other body parts, only like their eyes and their mouth and their nose and their ears, making people deaf, blind, or being able to control people's eyes. So Deku would have looked and would have had his eyes completely wide open, his ears being at full throttle, him being able to hear everything, as he would have been left there tied up with his family's charred bodies in front of him, not even 6 feet away from him, as he would have been crying his eyes out, him saying, "I'm sorry." As we get switched about another year later, as Deku was about 17 years old, as Deku is basically living on his own, him on the run now, and him not trying to be a part of foster care anymore, as he would have ran away from foster care after his family would have been put into the book as a murder, as Deku would have told them what happened, but the drug lord not having any type of, government, record or anything like that, and also his name being fake as well, not giving his father his real name. So, yeah, Deku couldn't find that drug lord anymore, and that drug lord is going to take a big part in Deku's future as the Punisher, as Deku goes on a rampage to try to find that drug dealer, as he uses up all of his resources, going into gambling, and Deku being kind of like a genius to be it simple. Him being very well, like a straight up god at gambling. Him getting easily 8K to 7K a day if he goes into the, pretty much casinos. So Deku was really good at gambling. Also, Deku was incredibly good at math and statistics and also marksmanship and how to make people die quicker. Which is simple. He uses math to make people die quicker, taking ratios of poison and gunpowder and all sorts of other things, and also taking trajectory of wind and other things like that, how a bullet would travel and things like that. Deku's skill being on par with, well, Frank Castle's skill, and also him combined with the aim and accuracy of Green Arrow and Deadshot combined. So Deku was kind of a king when it came to shooting or killing. But Deku isn't as, as potent at shooting or, making a perfect shot as, Deadshot is or Green Arrow is, to put it simple. So, yeah, a bit all the way, like, all around. Yeah. Deku will eventually become at the same level of accuracy that Deadshot has, even probably faster or even more accurate. But for now, he's at the same, just normal base level of accuracy and skill as normal comic book, Frank Castle. And normal comic book Frank Castle ain't no slouch. He is a trained military, just Marine. But Deku in this story, he basically trains himself every day on the hour, every hour, for killing, and that's it. As Deku treated himself like a military man, as he trained himself in every single possible way possible. Deku's body being absolutely shredded and athletically built. Him not being a bodybuilder, but him being athletically built to a point where he can even knock out Bakugo with one punch clean. His physical strength, even without a quirk, was ungodly. He had the same strength, agility, speed, and reflexes as current comic book prime Frank Castle, plus his body build as well. And Frank Castle's body build is kind of a muscular, lean, more athletic, older man body. But Deku's a teenager at this point. Deku has a more muscular, taller physique than he had in, canon. So his muscularity, like after the 10-month arc train, is a lot more defined, a little bit bigger, and also he's a lot more taller. So he's about the same height as Bakugo, a little bit taller maybe. But yeah, so Deku, in boots, he's a little bit taller than Bakugo, but he's the same height as Bakugo, to be honest. So Deku basically is like a killing machine, and his training is even more intense than Frank's training is. Deku waterboards himself and basically trains himself to overcome different situations like burns and scars and also knife wounds and other things like that. And Deku, over the years, being a vigilante as well, gathering up pretty much, a reputation in the streets of Japan. Him being donned the name as the Punisher, as a news article comes off as the Punisher is on the prowl, as the heroes and All Might hear about this, and at this point it will be about, I think, UA is a college in this universe, so it would be about the first year of UA, the college, about in the middle of it, right before the USJ arc, them doing combat training today. As Deku would have been training his butt off, him basically tracking down a lot of villains and killing them, and even pedophiles, drug dealers, and other things like that, and other like just cruel sickos, and just murdering them all. As he would eventually one day found one dude after a drug deal who have told him that I'm going to give you a chance to set your life straight and to leave this all behind. You can go. As he lets the man go, as he walks off, as the man talks to his friend a couple minutes later after Deku supposedly, to his knowledge, leaves, as he talks about how he's going to, he's set for life, as basically tells this dude on the phone named Donnie to come here and pick up this, product. We're set for life. We'll be billionaires. As Deku appears behind the dude, Batman style, as the dude looks at him and says, "Billy, I gotta go," as he hangs up the phone as he says, I know what's gonna come next. Please make it. And then Deku snaps his neck. As he knows the man was gonna say, please make it quick, but he didn't really care. So he just snapped his neck, then that. As he would have torched the whole place, leaving the man behind, and basically leaving a spray painted mark of Punisher's logo, his iconic logo, as he would have left it in flames. As Deku's hero costume, or I guess not hero costume, but more or less vigilante suit, would be more or less like a more combat, more realistic version of, I guess, the picture that's right next to the main picture in the thumbnail. That's Deku's hero costume. He doesn't have the classic, weird. It's not weird looking, but it's not aesthetically pleasing when it comes to Frank Castle's story, because I'm pretty sure Frank Castle ain't gonna wear no white gloves, white combat boots, and like a big white logo on his chest. He is now. He's just wearing a lot more tactical stuff and a bulletproof vest. So Deku's a lot more of a more grittier Deku. Now, you see how Deku, after that, years would have gone by. Not years, a couple weeks would have gone by. Deku's name would have became even bigger, and as pro heroes would have gone out their way to try to find Deku. As eventually one night, Deku would have taken down a bunch of drug dealers in a nearby area, and also fight against a superpowered freak. As he would eventually walk off, as he would have bumped into Aizawa. As Aizawa would have looked at him saying, I've heard of you. You've been killing innocent people. As he would have said innocent people, you mean rapists, drug dealers, child molesters. You really think they're innocent? He says, the law needs to handle that, not you, kid. As Deku would have looked at him, is that how you know I'm a kid? As Deku would have had a mask on, kind of like Casey Jones mask, but more or less a Punisher type mask. More of a Black Ops Punisher look. As Deku would have taken out his shotgun and would have done a full-on blast at Aizawa. As Aizawa would have dodged out the way as quick as possible, him chucking a nearby trash can at Deku's forehead, and Deku would have been pushed back off of his feet. As Deku would have ducked after another kick thrown towards him by Aizawa, as Deku would have dodged it and stabbed Aizawa in his right foot. As Aizawa would have fell on the ground, as Aizawa would have pulled his knife out, saying you didn't stab hard enough. As Aizawa's boots in his cannon would have been a little bit more thicker. As he would have straight up nut kicked the absolute snot at Deku, as Deku would have fell on the ground. As Deku would have smirked through his mask saying, cockpiece. And basically would have kicked Aizawa dead in his knee, breaking it backwards, as Aizawa would have been on the ground. As Aizawa would have looked at him and would have tried to use his quirk on him, but Deku said, I don't have a quirk, Aizawa. I've done research on all of you. Research on you, Eraserhead, Miss Midnight, Giganta, every one of you. I know all your weaknesses. I know everything about you. I've done so many background research on every single pro hero that will ever even try to come after me. I know everything about you, including that you're a weak, insignificant, pathetic hero. As he would have stabbed Aizawa dead in the chest, Aizawa would have been able to survive, but Deku leaving that in the knife there, saying it's a reminder. You won't die, but you're gonna definitely need a medical attention. You're definitely gonna need medical attention once I pull this out. As Aizawa would have said, pull it out. And Deku would have pulled out the knife, making it, making Aizawa bleed out. As Aizawa, about an hour later, he would have miraculously still been alive, as medical attention would have been, greatly bestowed upon him, as he would have been brought to hospital and his life being saved. As we get switched the next day, as Deku was in his little penthouse apartment, as he's basically polishing his katana and also basically reloading his gun, as he gets a knock at the front door. As Deku looks over through the peephole, as he sees it's a FBI agent. As Deku pulls out his gun, having it behind his back, as he opens the door with a polite face and smile on his face, acting like a normal teenage kid. As he looks at him, he says, hey, my dad isn't here yet, so I can't really talk to you. And he says, I know who you are, Punisher. As Deku would have said, what? He would have walked to the door and he would have closed the door, saying, I'm with a FBI agency for heroes, vigilantes. As we give some vigilantes, young vigilantes like you, a chance to become real heroes. As Deku would have said, what do you mean real heroes? I don't know what you mean, but at this point, if the FBI knows about me and they know where I live, I'm done. As Deku throws his gun on the ground and says, I'm not going to tell you shit. As Deku looks dead in the man's eyes as he says, ooh, you got some cojones on you, kid. As he scoffs and sits down on Deku's couch as he sees a crap ton of guns. As he looks at them with no serial number, as he says, where did you get all these? Deku said, I bought some of them, and I made some of them. As Deku would have been yelled at saying, by the FBI agent, what, you make half of your guns, you make them? That is genius, kid. That's awesome. As he says, well, we know your work. You're quirkless, obviously, by your background knowledge and also your background. Simply because, well, we don't know. You're just quirkless, kid. But I would have to say one thing. You're a remarkable hero with your skill set, your training, and everything that makes you special. So, we're giving you a chance, kid. All I'm giving you is 5 years. All I'm giving you, you know what, scratch that. 3 years. UA. College. Become a pro hero and stop killing. And I'll let all the murders you did, everything, go under the rug. You'll be innocent. As Deku says, I don't want to be innocent. I enjoy what I'm doing and I'm doing the right thing. Heroes nowadays don't got the balls to do what I need to do. They don't got what it takes to do what I do. Heroes nowadays don't even care about people. Only care about fame, glory, money. They're all a bunch of poor sacks of nothingness. No backbone, no soul. They're pathetic. As he would have looked at him and said, you're not wrong. But I would have to say one thing, Izuku Midoriya. It's no real choice. Either you go into jail for life for so many murders you committed, or you take UA college. As Deku looked at him and said, how many years? He says, no, life sentence. It doesn't matter. You won't get off as long as you live. It doesn't matter if you live until 170. Deku, we're going to give you a whole life sentence if you don't take this offer. Last chance, Izuku Midoriya. As Deku looked at him dead in his eyes, saying, fine, when do I start? Tomorrow. Now, the government is going to come by and take all your guns, but we're going to replace them with non-lethal bullets. That is also going to be verified by the school so you can bring them on campus. Since it's the only real thing that really going to keep you alive is some of the combat training they're going to give you. So yeah, you're going to be starting on the 3rd day of UA, and I'm going to drop you off at USJ. As Deku says, fine. As Deku is left there, as the government grabs those guns, replaces them, and also brings him to the dormitories at the UA college. As he's given all these new weapons that are all non-lethal, but Deku does have a whole freaking, drawer full of knives, katanas, and big burly butcher knives that the government never found and stuff. So Deku had those. The only lethal thing he had left in his arsenal, other than these plastic bullets that would hurt like a mother sucker if you got shot by them, but would not kill you though. But they would leave a lot of scar damage, but they wouldn't kill you. So it's simple. Deku did modify some of these to make them hurt even more, and also modified some of them to even knock people out cold or put them in the comas, but not penetrate the skin too much to a point where they would actually go through the body and kill. So Deku was able to modify them, but he also did have one gun, specifically one small handgun that was lethal, that he did keep on him at all times in case anything really did pop off and he needed to spray somebody down and, let's just say, end the fight permanently. Now, we'll say that Deku would have gone into UA campus, people thinking he was kind of hot, mainly Momo with the black hair, more muscular type build of Deku, as Deku would have also had scars on his body from the years of him being, getting experience racked up from him fighting drug deals, him being stabbed because his first iteration of his uniform was just him in white combat boots ripped up jeans, and a black hoodie with just a pocket knife and a shotgun on his back. So Deku's pretty much, arsenal was very limited when he first started off. Now, Deku would have walked into class as not walked into class, but he would have walked into class and it would have been empty as the U.S. military or FBI agent would have told him to move here as he's gonna be dropped off at USJ. As he would have walked into USJ, as he would have been given back his uniform or his vigilante suit would have been a lot more, I guess, aesthetically pleasing, but still the Black Ops uniform. As Aizawa would have noticed this, as Aizawa would have looked at it in his eyes, and would have said, "Why the hell is he here?" As a U.S. military soldier would have called him back, the FBI agent would have called him back, would have pulled him away, saying that he was given a second chance. It's only a kid, and he said, "He broke my leg. He stabbed me in my chest, and he said I was nothing. How am I supposed to just let that slide and let him?" Fine, but if he messes up even once, he's out of here. As the FBI agent says, okay. As he walks over to Deku and tells him what Aizawa said, as Deku doesn't really have any respect for Aizawa. It might change later on, but he has no respect for Aizawa. Now, we get switched that Deku, basically his ideologies, he just doesn't like heroes like Aizawa. Aizawa is a good hero, he knows that, but he isn't as good as other heroes like All Might and other heroes that do it strictly just to save people, and those are very slim numbers. Mainly heroes that do it for fame are suckers, and overall people that he would kill easily if he had the chance. As we see that the students are gossiping before Aizawa starts off the class, as Deku overhears somebody in the crowd saying they were just doing this to get money so they could support their family. But Deku, all he heard was doing this just to get money. And Deku was pissed off first thing. So the class started and everybody was told by 13 about quirks and everything like that. As Deku didn't have a quirk, but he was told not to say anything. Deku was just told to just say that he had a type of super strength quirk. As Deku's build was very lean but also muscular, but the amount of strength and speed Deku could dish out was insanely unpredictable with the type of body build Deku had. And the type of genetic defect I was talking about earlier was Deku's body or muscles is built different. He's literally built different. His muscles, not a quirk, but his muscles are a lot more denser, or his muscle fibers are 2 times as stronger than an average bodybuilder or just human in general. So basically, he's incredibly way more stronger on top of his already insane, very athletic build, plus his insane training and skills. And on top of all of that, Deku's nervous system or pain sensors are actually defective since this, genetic defect of his muscles, making his pain tolerance the same as Kick-Ass's, or maybe a little watered down. So basically, he can still feel pain, but not as much as normal people. So a bullet feels about 2 times to 3 times a little bit less painful than if he was shot as a normal person. So yeah, so Deku's pain tolerance is a very, very more, higher. Now, we see that Deku was just watching this, scoffing and everything like that, as eventually we would have heard the villains show up. As the villains were showing up, as the same thing would have happened, the team being split up, as pretty much it was 13 would have got bodied by the Shadow Quirk villain, as eventually they would have all been split up, as Deku would have fell on the ground, as he would have been saved by Froppy, basically them being stuck on the boat. Since Mineta was dead, Mineta was in the story. So basically, Deku would have looked around as he would have found basically a clear shot, as he would have thrown a grenade in the water. Him, being able to sneak some very lethal weapons in his arsenal, throwing a grenade in the water, basically it not being really a grenade. He does have a real grenade somewhere, but he doesn't really know which one it is since it's not really labeled. But he did grab a flash grenade, making the pretty much villains come up to the water after the flash grenade would have gone up. Hit them looking out of the water. I think it would have started spraying them with machine guns, basically them not with AK-47s that had rubber bullets, of course, but them having a lot more denser rubber bullets, so it would have hurt a hell of a lot more. As eventually they would all been sprayed down like a bunch of suckers. As eventually some of them would have been knocked out and some of them would have floated up to the water. As Deku would have eventually been able to pretty much walk around the boat, as some of them would have came on board, Deku taking out a big butcher knife and straight up going crazy on them. As eventually, or a combat knife, going crazy on them. Eventually, them taking the upper hand, knocking the knife out of Deku's hand, and starting to jump him. As Deku would have taken down some silver batons, and would have started to break their kneecaps, and would have started to knock the absolute crud out of them. And I mean, when I knocked the absolute crud out of them, with every swing they got hit with, it was like their soul leaving their body. I mean, god damn, their souls are being broken into two with them swings, bro. Them swings are like bullet shots or like slugs, for real. Them shits hit like literal, like you getting hit up in the balls with a fucking train, bro. It felt like someone ran over your junk. Like, for real, the amount of pain Deku was dishing out with every single swish with those batons was insane. Eventually, them being knocked out clean, them being bloody messes, like critical damage bloody mess. As Deku would have walked off, or would have just jumped into the water and him swimming off on the other side to the beach side of the water area, as he would eventually run up the stairs, him coming across other villains, so pretty much sleeping them with rubber bullets, knocking them out cold, making headshots on every single one, eventually coming across the no-move fight with All Might. As he would have had an idea, as he would have ran off, as he would have taken out a specific bullet that he got somewhere years ago when he took down a superhero or pretty much supervillain, type of exchange with a crooked superhero, as it would have been a quirk bullet, as it would have been a new technology in this universe, or in this version of My Hero Academia, a bullet that can give off the effects of a quirk if it was put into a weapon. And this quirk bullet was a sonic bullet, as if it got into a person's body, it would set off a sonic blast that would be able to explode somebody from the inside out without any trace. The perfect bullet. As Deku would have hit the bullet, and it would be like a glowing bullet, as it would have been translucent but with a glowing blue shine in the middle of the bullet. As he would have put it in his gun, he would have taken out a pistol, taken out the pretty much fake bullets, as he would have put in the quirk bullet, as he would have made a clear shot and blasting that full, and basically the Nomu's whole chest area being obliterated, as All Might would have grabbed the bottom half of the Nomu's chest, Nomu's body, and would have chucked that full on Detroit style. As eventually, from afar, Aizawa would have been confused on what the hell just happened, as it would have been some sort of quirk was in play, but he knows for a fact Deku doesn't have a quirk. As Deku just pissed the gun away, and him basically having no trace of the quirk bullet on him, as Deku grabs his stuff, because he did have kind of an aimer on, as he basically gets out of the way, as the villains show up, and eventually a couple minutes later, before the villains get captured, Shigaraki was able to grab Deku, as Deku moved off away from Shigaraki's body, as Deku was able to get out of the way just in time for Shigaraki to just damage Deku's armor or padding, so not really touching any parts of his body. As Shigaraki would have said, "I'm coming back for you," as Deku would have took out one of his lethal guns, trying to spray this fool, but the guy getting out there too fast, as Deku would have been, pretty much, stopped by Aizawa. Aizawa would have looked at the gun saying, "This is real. What the hell are you doing with a real gun?" As Deku would have told Aizawa that I have some dirt on you. Remember July 18th? As Deku would have looked at Aizawa dead in his eyes, as Deku would have done background research on every single hero, especially blackmail, as Aizawa was Deku's bitch now, as Deku would have grabbed the gun away from Aizawa's hand, saying, "Don't say a single thing," as he would have put the gun away, as he would have walked off, as Froppy would have been kind of scared of Deku, as especially Aizawa as well. Now I'm going to leave it off here, guys. Deku would have gone back to his dormitory, as the FBI agent would have said he did good today, as the FBI agent wouldn't really see anything, out of the ordinary. Now, I'm gonna leave it up here, guys. So, hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you guys like and subscribe. And as always, guys, have a blessed day. Deuces.